Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be spending it in the kitchen again, and we will be making 7 different summer salads. Now some of them I've already made. I think, actually not some, everything but one I've made already in the past, and I know that they're all delicious. So we're going to make all of them today because we are hosting a family gathering here. At least once a summer I try to host my husband's family here for a barbecue dinner. And for the proteins, we're going to be pulling out a bunch of things from the freezer that I have marinated recently. You'll see it in an upcoming video. But for the side dishes, I will be preparing all these salads. So I'm gonna list them all for you now, and I will have timestamps in the description for you. So if you want to skip ahead and watch anything specific, you can jump right ahead. And I will have the recipes for you linked down below as well. So we're going to make a corn salsa, which I've made recently. You might have seen it in one of my videos, along with a ramen noodle salad that you might have seen in that same video as well. I'm going to make a coleslaw, which I've been making for many years. Potato salad that I discovered last year, I think, and we love it. So we're going to be making that as well. We're going to make a kale Caesar salad, which is a classic for me. I love that. We're going to make a radish salad, which I also discovered last year. This one I know for sure is from last year. I tried it when we first got radishes out from the garden, and it became a favorite right away. And I forgot that I will be making the new one, which is a pesto pasta salad. So I have to go out to the garden and harvest some basil before we start, and I'm excited for that one. So I'm going to get right into the cooking part, or prepping part, of all these salads. Yeah, let's get going. Okay, I harvested my basil, I destemmed them, I rinsed them dry. I rinsed them clean, and now I'm spinning it dry. So we're going to get some water in here and get this cooking for our pasta. So now I'm preparing the pasta that I'll be using, along with some salt to be able to salt the water. And I usually put a wooden spatula on top to stop it from boiling over. So we got all that ready. So now while we're working at the stove, we're also going to cook up our potatoes for the potato salad. So I've got here 2 bags of these mini potatoes. I'm going to transfer it into a pot. I want to make sure the basil is as dry as possible. So I'm going to spin it quite a few times until I'm happy with the results. Now back to the potatoes, I'm going to sprinkle in some kosher salt. And we're going to add water to cover the potatoes. And I'm going to get this over on this flame. I'm going to get this going. And this, once it comes to a boil, we need to cook it for 10 to 15 minutes until the potatoes are barely tender. And while I'm here at the stove top, I think there's nothing else that I need to cook. But I will need the oven, so let me check. Okay, so I'm going to make croutons for our kale salad, and we're going to do the crunch for our ramen noodle salad. Both of them need to be on 350. I do have a sourdough starter in here because I'm going to be making some flatbreads, not with you guys. Maybe I'll make it in a future sourdough video for you. So I got that out, and we're going to preheat the oven to 350. And while that's preheating, we're going to get all of our elements ready to be able to go into the oven once the oven is ready for us. Okay, so for our Caesar salad dressing, I have a cookie sheet here. I'm going to line it with parchment paper. I have some scrap sourdough bread slices. I'm going to cube. And we're going to drizzle it with olive oil and the smoked paprika. If this makes more croutons than we need tonight, I will enjoy this for lunch. I'll make some salads for lunch and add this. I'm going to sprinkle smoked paprika, drizzle the olive oil, and toast to combine. I'm going to spread it out, try to get it all in one layer. gonna wash my hands. Okay, my oven has already reached temperature, but I want to put both of them in at the same time. So let's prepare the ramen salad crunch. Now for this, the recipe doesn't say to use a parchment paper, but I am doing it just to help myself with cleanup a little bit. Now you don't need the seasoning packet. If you want to save it for something else, go ahead and do that. And now you're going to want to break these up into smaller pieces. Now I'm going to get a half a cup of cashews. You want raw, unsalted cashews, and we're going to chop this up. Okay, I don't think I want to chop them up any finer. Just going to add that to our cookie sheet. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of sesame seeds and a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. We're going to give this a little mix. Let's spread it out. Okay, so this will go into the oven for 10 to 30 minutes until fragrant and starting to brown. And this one should take about 20 minutes. So while this is going, I am going to, let me actually check the water for both of these. Pasta is not even close to a bubble yet. I'm going to make the flame higher. Potatoes, almost there. Okay, so I'm going to run to my freezer now and get out the proteins that we're going to have today. Okay, so I pulled out a bunch of stuff here that I'm going to let defrost a little bit on the counter first, and then I'll place it in the fridge until we're ready to grill. And this was making so much noise, I thought it's ready. We're almost there. And for the potatoes, I already have a timer going for it. And we'll check it to make sure that it is done. I'm gonna move this aside so I can get some cooling racks out for our crunch once that comes out of the oven. Crunch and our croutons. And I think while we're doing this, waiting for this, we can also make our pesto. I'm gonna get out my food processor for that. And just like with the salad croutons, I'm gonna make all of the basil into pesto, and any extras I will enjoy over the week. Our water here is bubbling. Gonna add in the water. The salt. At this point is the only point that you can flavor the pasta. So salt your water and be generous with it. And the recipe does say to cook the pasta a minute longer than the package calls for. So this says 7 to 8 minutes, so we'll do 8 to 9 minutes. Probably 9. Okay, I set a timer for that. We have lots of timers going right now. I'm gonna get a colander out to strain the pasta once this is ready, and then we'll get going with our pesto. So the recipe that I am using for the pesto pasta salad is saying to use 2 cups of packed basil for the pesto. So I'm gonna see how much I have, so I know how much to multiply the recipe by. And a lot of basil leaf fit into 1 cup. So I'll consider this 1. Okay, so I'm gonna consider this 2.5 times the recipe. And I hope I have enough pine nuts. I do not have a lot. So I'll just have to use different nuts that I have in the house and make a combo of a few things. Let me give the pasta a stir, prevent it from sticking. And we're gonna check our ramen noodles to see what it's looking like. I'll add the 3 minutes. So I would need five tablespoons of pine nuts, and I have 2. Let me see what else we can use. I have a lot of slivered almonds, so we're going to use this for the rest of it. Add some garlic, kosher salt, black pepper. Okay, our ramen crunch is ready. And we're leaving our croutons for another few minutes. And now while I'm blending this up, I'm going to drizzle in the olive oil, which I have pre-measured here. The recipe does say it in tablespoons, but because we're multiplying, I calculated, we're doing 2.5 recipes. I calculated, and we need a little bit more than 1 cup. Okay, so this, oh, I see some basil stayed on top. I got busy with the pasta that was ready, so I strained it and made sure that all of the pasta is starting to cool off with some cold water, because I wanted to stop the cooking process. Now before I transfer this into anything, I want to get a bowl for our pasta, because I will need our colander for our potatoes. We're going to let this cool completely before we add anything to it. I'm going to set it aside so it's not in our way. So 1 cup of this has to go into our pasta, which I can actually do right now. I will do that. It'll help prevent the pasta from drying out. I'm going to transfer the rest of this into a jar, and this will go into the fridge. Okay, now my timer is going off for our croutons and potatoes. So first I'm going to get a fork. I'm going to get a fork. I'm going to pierce a couple of potatoes, and yes, the first one is nice and tender. Second one too, so I'm going to consider this good. I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to get this into the colander. I'm going to let it steam. Let me check our croutons. Looking delicious. Okay, this can come out. I'm going to move this to another area to let them cool so I have the counter space to work, and I'm going to put this away and we'll be right back. Okay, let me toast this to coat the pasta. And I love pasta like this for a salad like this because it holds on to the dressing and to the pesto so beautifully. It gets into all the curls and crevices. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of mayo for this. I'm going to mix this in again. I've got some cherry tomatoes that we're going to cut in half. I'm going to get that into the salad. Okay, I'm going to toss this in and I'm going to set it in the fridge. The recipe does call for arugula in here as well. But for that, I am going to wait until later because I don't want the arugula to get wilted from the dressing. But this already is getting me so excited. The color is so vibrant and summery. I'm going to taste this because the recipe does say to add salt if needed. And I'm just going to taste the pasta with the pesto because I don't like tomatoes. Wow, the pesto is really good, but I do think you could use a bit more salt, especially once we have the arugula in there. So I sprinkled in a little bit. I'm going to toss it in, and once I add the arugula, I'll try to remember to taste it again and see if I need to adjust the salt again. Because arugula, if you don't know, is a very peppery lettuce or green. I don't want any of this drying out, so I'll wipe down the bowl a little bit. I'm gonna cover it and set it in the fridge. Okay, so I put that in the fridge and I put the arugula together with it so that I remember to add it. So we can mark off our pesto pasta salad. That is done. So I think the next one we'll do is the ramen salad. That should be pretty straightforward and simple to finish up. Let me pull up the recipe. Let me get the bowl out. I don't think I need the cutting board for this one. So I'm going to make the dressing right in here so that we don't have to dirty up another dish. And we're going to start off with some rice vinegar, a 1/4 cup of it, some soy sauce, the juice of 1 lime, some sugar. Okay, I'm going to grate in the garlic, but first I'm going to let it sit there to defrost a little bit. Some ground ginger and black pepper. So I'm going to prepare in here a 1/2 cup of oil and 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. And this will get whisked. And while we're whisking, we're going to slowly drizzle in the oil to emulsify it. Let me grate in the garlic. And like I said, while I'm whisking this, I will slowly drizzle in the olive oil. Now for this, I got a bag of broccoli slaw. I'm going to toast this to combine. And then we're going to add the rest of the ingredients that will go in here except for the crunch. I'm going to add in a cup of mandarin oranges that I have drained. I'm going to gently toast this in. And last thing to be added will be some scallions or green onions. And I will be using the white and the green parts of it. Okay, one final gentle toss. Okay, our crunch has cooled, so I got it into a jar. I don't want to put this in the fridge because I don't want it to get soggy. And I'm not going to cover it all the way, but I don't want anything to fall into it. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to cover this, get this into the fridge. Okay, now that we've got all the components done for our ramen salad and combined it the most that we could, I can mark that off. And I think next we will do our potato salad. And just like before, we're going to make our dressing in here. Now the recipe does call for buttermilk. And I don't have it in my store, and I need it to be parve, non-dairy, because we're having a barbecue. So I'm going to make my own buttermilk by combining some soy milk with a little bit of lemon juice. A little stir, and I can see that it's starting to curdle a little bit to make the buttermilk. So we're going to add in a cup of mayo. We're going to add some Dijon mustard. Now this recipe does call for dill. I was going to use some from my garden. Unfortunately, the day that I bought all the ingredients for all these salads, that afternoon the ground dog got into the garden and had a party in there. He ate from the dill, he ate some zucchini leaves, which doesn't matter to me. He ate the carrot tops, he ate the drying beans. Some of that, he ate a little bit of the zinnia plant. We're thinking maybe he ate some tomato, but I'm not sure. And anything else? I can't remember. Oh yeah, the marigold flowers. He ate some of that too. So yeah, we'll see how those recover. But the dill, unfortunately, I cannot use, so I'm going to head to the store soon and buy that, and I'll add it afterwards. So we're going to get our potatoes, and I'm going to cut them in half so they're easier to eat. They're all pretty small potatoes. If you have potatoes that are a little bit bigger, I would suggest cutting them into quarters or even smaller so that they are a nice bite-sized piece. Okay, next, we need some red onion. So I'm not going to use all of it, so we'll set that aside. I'm going to add these onions. We'll toss it and see if I want to add more. I don't think it's quite enough for what the recipe called for. I think I'll actually do the entire onion because I'm not doing celery. The recipe does call for celery, but I didn't want to buy. I don't really have outside because the celery that I have harvested didn't grow back enough yet. We're going to harvest more. And the celery from our new beds are not quite there yet. I like this ratio a lot more. Okay, so we just have to add the dill, which will have to be later once I buy the dill. So I'm gonna cover this and get it into the fridge as well. And we've got our third salad done. Okay, I'm gonna clean this off because I think the next thing we'll make is our coleslaw. Because that I like when it sits a little bit before we eat it. So for the coleslaw, you can buy a bag of coleslaw mix. I just prefer to shred up my own cabbage. Because this cabbage has been sitting in my fridge for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks. And if I cut off this top layer over here, it's going to be perfectly fine. And there's nothing like just freshly prepared vegetables. And I have my scale out, so as I'm shredding this up, I will measure it out to get about a package worth, so about a pound. I'll do a little bit less because I'm still going to add carrots to it. Should actually move things around, have this on the cutting board and have this off. So for this, I am going to cut it down by the root ball. I'm going to cut straight down to get a wedge out of it. And because I have this dry bit over here, I am going to also cut it down over here to get rid of any of that. I will remove the first leaf over here and then I'll start shredding. Once I'm done shredding is when I'll clean it. I'll rinse it and spin it dry. And so while the cabbage is spinning dry over there, I'm going to peel and shred up the carrots. And I think I'll shred it straight into the bowl. I'm going to add our cabbage in here. So I did make two mayonnaise today before we started all of this. Okay, so I do need a half a cup of mayonnaise. So I'm going to start off with the remainder from this jar over here. So I need just a little bit more from this one. I'm going to get that in here. I'm going to add some sugar. And about a tablespoon of lemon juice. We're going to mix this to combine. And the cabbage and the carrots will tenderize between now and when we're ready to eat. And that's why I like to prep this in advance. If you like it crunchy, do it closer to when you'll be eating it. This is going to join the other salads in the fridge. So now we just have our kale Caesar salad to finish off, our radish salad, and our corn salsa. So those things I can prep closer to dinner time, closer to the party, and I have some errands to do. So we're going to do a quick cleanup here, and I'll see you guys later when we get back to finishing off the rest of these salads. Okay, the next salad we're making is a radish salad. And for this, I already cleaned our radishes. I'm cutting off the root end. And the recipe does say to let the radishes sit with a bit of salt to tenderize it a bit. But I don't find it necessary. I like when the radishes still have a little bit of a crisp to them. So if you're making this at home, you can go ahead and do that. Try it either way. See which way you like it better. And then make it however you feel like. So this I'm gonna slice. And I'm gonna measure it out because I think I'm gonna have more than the recipe calls for. And so I wanna know how to adjust the dressing for it. Okay, so technically this, what I got shredded up, is one recipe. So I think I'll be able to double it. Okay, now that we got our radishes in here, we're gonna do the same thing with some cucumbers. These cucumbers are pretty small, so I'm gonna slice it and measure it like I did with the radishes. I'm doing it on the same thickness, and doing it with a mandolin makes it so easy and so fast. I think I'll do one more. Now I got a red onion. I'm gonna make very thin slices. I'm gonna use the entire red onion. because I doubled it. Otherwise I would have used just half. I'm gonna add some olive oil to this. A 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar. And for this I'm giving you the quantities for a double recipe. If you're doing a single recipe, it would be a 1/2 cup of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of the vinegar. We're going to need to mince up some garlic, so I'm going to let it defrost a little bit. And I'm going to chop up some dill and add it to our potato salad as well. So I'm going to clean up the board so I have space to do that. So we need a little bit of this for our radish salad. I like dill, so I'm adding more than the recipe calls for. And let me check how much we need for the potato salad. Yep, that's plenty. Once I'm done with the radish salad, I'll add this to the potato salad. And I'm thinking I want to grate this as well. I don't have the patience to mince now, but it does call for minced garlic. Okay, we're going to toast this to combine it. And you want to let this sit for about an hour, for at least an hour before you start eating this. And I think I will add a little bit of salt since I didn't tenderize the radishes. Just add a little bit of flavor to it. And the recipe does say that if you want, you can add a little bit of sugar, but I don't think I want to add that. Obviously, this will taste better once it sits a little bit, but I want to give it a taste test. I think I'm going to add a little bit more salt. And again, I'll have to taste it before I put it out and see if it needs to be adjusted then. So I got my potato salad out of the fridge. I'm going to add the dill. And I'm happy that it happened like this because like that I get to, I don't know if you saw, but the top of the potatoes was dry. Like that I get to rehydrate and everything gets to be flavored and dressed. Okay, this can now get back into the fridge. Okay, so I cleaned off my board before we get going with our next salad. So the next thing we're making is our corn salsa. So I'm gonna prep the corn and the red onion so that it is ready for the grill. So to get our corn ready, we are removing the husks and the silks. Okay, so for this we also need a red onion prepped. And for this I'm not gonna remove the root end because that'll help keep the onion together on the grill. I'm just gonna peel it. And I think it'll be easier to peel if I cut it in half first, since I'm gonna have to do that anyways. And this I'm gonna cut into wedges. And I'm gonna make sure that every piece has some of the root end so that it stays together. I'm gonna transfer this into a 9x13 pan. And I'm gonna get some olive oil. Ooh, that's a lot. And I'm gonna get everything coated in the oil. And when it gets on the grill, the oil will help cook it. We're gonna prep the rest of the vegetables and the dressing for our salsa. We're gonna do a red pepper, a jalapeno pepper, and I got here 2 limes that we're gonna juice. Okay, so I'm gonna dice up the red pepper and the jalapeno. I think I will de-seed the entire jalapeno. Actually no, I think most people are okay with spicy. And if not, there's plenty of other options to go around. I'm gonna juice my 2 limes straight in here. And for this, we're gonna need some chopped cilantro. So I'm gonna get that ready. I'm gonna get our cilantro into this ramekin here. I'm gonna add some red wine vinegar. For spices, we're gonna add some salt, cumin, black pepper, and chili powder. I'm gonna combine this. Once our onion and corn are grilled up, we're gonna add it in here, along with our cilantro, which I'm gonna set in there until we're ready to Combine it all. Now the last thing left to make is our kale salad. So for that, we're going to start, we already made the croutons. Now we're going to make our dressing. So we're going to start off with a half a cup of mayonnaise, 3 teaspoons of minced garlic. I don't feel like doing that now, so I'm going to use these cubes of garlic. 1 cube equals a teaspoon. A little bit of red wine vinegar, a little bit of mustard, and some salt and pepper. I do want our garlic cubes to defrost a little bit before we mix this in. So I'm going to get a bowl out, along with the kale that we're going to be using for the salad. And I'm going to get it into the bowl. And I'm going to make sure that all of the pieces are bite-sized pieces, not too big. And I'm going to take out any thick stems that are still in there. Okay, now I'm going to mix together the salad dressing. Make sure that all of that garlic is mixed in. And I'm going to get the dressing over top. And I believe I can use all of it. Maybe I should have left some to be able to add on later. But kale likes to sit in the dressing a bit. So I'm going to massage it in with my hand. I'm going to get some croutons over the top here. I'm not going to toss it in yet. And before serving, I'll toss it and see if I want to add more. Or we'll save the rest for myself to enjoy later on in the week. Okay, so we are done for now. Let me just confirm. I'll see you guys later when we put all of this out and we finish off our corn salsa. And now people are starting to arrive, so we got the grill going. We're starting to grill up the proteins, and we're grilling up the corn and the red onion. And I was still busy in the kitchen, tying up loose ends, cutting up a few things here and there. And I did not get to record everything. I didn't get to record the salads being brought out. I didn't get to record. I had some of the family members over to help, so I asked them to get the onions and corn ready once they came off the grill. And yes, I don't have much to show you here other than the actual grilling part. But you can see my husband's rotating them, getting a nice char in them. And then the onions were chopped up, the corn was removed from the husk, was mixed into the salad, topped with a cilantro, and the arugula salad, we added the pasta salad, we added the arugula, and for the ramen salad, we added all the crunch and mixed that in, and everything was enjoyed. Like everybody took a little bit of everything, which that was my concept here, that everybody should have a little bit of everything, and everything was delicious. Every single one of them. I mean, I knew that it's going to be delicious because I've already made them in the past and I chose to make them for that reason. But the only thing that we made new, like I said, was the pesto pasta salad, and that was a hit. Here you can see some of the stuff on the table, the salads and some of the proteins, and everything was enjoyed to the last lick.